The male tarot reader, although again there is little statistical evidence to support this, merely experience, is more likely than in most other special interest groups to be homosexual. At present, there are no clear statistics as to the sexuality of the majority of female tarot readers. So there you have it, gentlemen. If you happen to find yourself having a shower with a tarot reader, just be careful when you pick up the soap. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Robert Farrah's Tea and Tarot. I will be talking about the Marseilles deck today. We could even say the problem of the Marseilles deck, though we don't really want to think of it as a problem. And I'm going to be talking about the difference between this traditional tarot deck and really all the other decks in existence after the Rider Waite. I'll also be offering a little reading list for any skeptics who might have tuned in by mistake. And then at the end of the programme, I'll do a little reading with the Marseilles deck just to demonstrate the difference between this sort of tarot pack and all the others. I promote my tarot show a little bit on Facebook because I like to throw a few euros in Mark Zuckerberg's direction every now and then. And so clearly what happens is that certain people just stumble upon it who may not be interested in tarot at all. I'm not really in the business of justifying tarot, and I'm certainly not much of a debater. I'm too old and I'm too busy. There are many people who have written about tarot, and there are many people who have written about the philosophical or even the scientific aspects or angles on this kind of thing. I went to a great website called Tarosophy, and there's a very useful, very helpful writer called Marcus Katz, and he provides you with some reading lists about learning tarot, scientific background, and he's got a reading list about synchronicity and science. Howard Bloom, Global Brain. I've never read Howard Bloom, but I think he's quite something. And then further down the list, there's C.G. Jung, Synchronicity, published in London, this edition in 1987. Jung can be quite heavy going, but he's definitely a hard hitter. He's a main force in our culture. So if you find tarot annoying or maybe disturbing, and you'd like to know why apparently sane people take it seriously, then dive into one of these books. I would recommend the Jung to start off with. Okay, well, for today's show, I've actually got a new tarot pack. It's called the Swiss Tarot, and this is a version of the Marseilles, which we're talking about today. People tell me that if you unbox things on YouTube, your viewing figures spike dramatically. So I thought I'd unbox it for you live on the show so that we can all share the thrill of these crisp new tarot cards straight from the factory. So here we are with our Swiss tarot deck here. As you can see, it's wrapped up in some very attractive cellophane. It's actually not printed by the usual people in America. This is printed by a firm called AGM Urania. And here we see a very attractive picture of one of the cards, the Sun card on the top, and we get an impression of how nice the colours are. The Tarot 1JJ breathes the spirit of a distant past, artistically high tarot cards from the 19th century in a loving reproduction. The 1JJ Swiss Tarot is an older style of tarot deck, a Marseilles variant. The cards are reprints of early woodcut designs, printed in black and coloured with blocks of red, blue, green and yellow. Printed in Belgium. Very nice too. There's a nice little pull string here, which I'm going to use. That's a nice satisfying sound as the cellophane comes off. Look at that lovely shiny new box. Listen to that crinkling cellophane. I open the box. Oh, more cellophane. Look at that. The Magician. Seems to be a little instruction book in there, very securely, nicely wrapped. I think to be safe, I'm going to use a little knife here. Slightly woody smell coming off the cards there. It's quite some time since I had a really new pack, and it is rather exciting. No fingerprints yet, no grease stains, no splashes of coffee. How do I feel about these cards? I'm comparing them to my trusty Rider Waite. First impression, a little thin. I think the cardstock is a little thin. Disappointed is the wrong word. I'm a naturally critical person. I think I have Virgo in my natal chart. But here we are, an attractive tartan design on the back. And a lovely, not exactly squeaky clean, slippery clean pack of tarot cards for us to enjoy. Here, a little booklet. I doubt this is going to be quite enough to satisfy a serious student of tarot, but there is something to start you off. There's a little description of the Celtic cross spread there, which I will probably tell you about in a later show. What I want to say about the Marseilles deck is this. If you're going to start out reading tarot cards, you have to make a decision between the two kinds of decks. The older decks, based on the Marseilles here, or the newer decks, which are all really based on the Rider Waite deck, which we've been talking about in previous episodes. And here's the thing, in the Marseilles deck and its variations, you get a pictorial major arcana, that is the first 22 cards, with these archetypal pictures. The Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Pope, he's called Jupiter in this deck, the Lovers, the Chariot, and of course you get the court cards. You have pages here, a page, a knight, here's a queen, and here's a king. However, after the major arcana and the court cards, you get to what people call the pip cards. That's numbers 1 to 10 in the 4 suits. And in the Marseilles, you don't have any illustrations on the pip cards. There, for example, is an ace of coins. There's a 4. There's a lovely 2 of cups. Wow, the ace of batons. I'm actually enjoying these. I think they're really beautiful. And that's why I bought this Swiss deck. There's the 10 of swords, packed full of swords there. And to carry on with my unboxing, I'm actually very satisfied with these cards. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. Wow, look at that. The Ace of Swords. The major arcana, they're sensational. Look, Wheel of Fortune there. A very nice Death.
A fabulous devil. Always important.
A really nice moon with a Romeo and Juliet scene. I'm getting a lot of Shakespeare in this, though the deck is post-Shakespeare. But I'm getting a lot of, the Victorian feeling for Shakespeare coming through here. That's lovely. It's lovely. And I love the colours. I find them very primary, very rich. But in terms of learning tarot, the point here is that the pip cards don't have pictures. Let's compare the 6 of batons in Rider Waite and in the Marseilles deck. That's the 6 of batons in the Rider Waite. That is the 6 of batons in the Marseilles. There's no illustration. And that is the 6 of batons in the Aquarian deck. As you can see, the Aquarian deck is based on the Rider Waite deck. And for a certain amount of time, a lot of the new decks that came out in the 20th century were based on the Rider Waite. Now people are becoming more imaginative. People are really being very creative. People are doing what they want. You get decks which are partly based on Rider Waite and then partly more intuitive or go off in different directions. What are the implications for us as tarot readers? When you start out, you are at a kind of a crossroads. I think you have to decide whether you're going to go with the Marseilles style or with the Rider Waite style. Well, because once you learn a system of meanings, it's quite difficult to take on board another system of meanings. There are hundreds of systems of meaning in the tarot, some more classical, some less classical. There are areas of agreement between them, but they really disagree quite a lot. There's even disagreement about basic numerology. What does a 2 signify? What does a 3 signify? The kind of numerological system that I use, for example, is quite different from the one that my partner uses. There are people who say that the Marseilles method of reading tarot is easier and quicker to learn. One way of going about this is to learn the meanings of the 22 major cards and then just learn the meanings of 1 to 10, numerologically speaking, and then page, knight, queen, king. So you have 14 meanings to learn, and then you can shade those 14 meanings by saying, now we are in the suit of cups, now we are in the suit of coins. Cups is more emotional, coins is more material. The way I learnt was, as I said, through the Alfred Douglas book and with a Rider Waite derivative pack, this Aquarian pack. And so I learnt 78 meanings. So if you're learning with the Marseilles method, you could say I only have to learn 22 plus 14 meanings, that's 36 meanings. If you're learning with the Rider Waite kind of method, then you need to learn 78 meanings. And it's very much a matter of taste. Whichever system you use, as you grow with it, as you get experienced with it, you will become more sophisticated in that system according to your own energy, according to your own brain. Which one do I recommend? I recommend the one I know. I recommend getting a Rider Waite or a Rider Waite derivative and learning the 78 meanings. And then I think you will have a very good, very useful vocabulary with which to read tarot cards. But follow your instincts. You could pick up a good book on one system and a good book on another system and see which one you're attracted to. There's a rather fabulous man called Vincent Piteschi or Vincent Piteschi, and he's clearly a very established tarot reader and he has books and videos. He seems to be based in the Marseilles. He recommends the Marseilles, and in his books he will tell you how to go down this particular route. He also has a very dry style of delivery on YouTube, and I highly recommend him. By the way, I'm drinking kombucha today, homemade kombucha. It's a kind of fermented drink using tea and sugar and a symbiotic community of yeast and bacteria. Cheers. Okay, well, just so that you get an idea of the choice you face as a new tarot reader, let's try a very simple reading using this Swiss deck, this Marseille style deck. And then I'll show you what it would have been like if we had used the Rider Waite. Like most independent artistic types, I have some financial concerns in the wake of the corona crisis. In fact, probably like most people in the world. So I'm just going to ask the tarot to give me a very simple 3-card spread, giving me a little bit of information and maybe advice and maybe prognostication about my finances. I'm not going to take this too seriously. I just want you to see how the cards look and feel when they fall down onto the table with the 2 different styles of pack. When I do the reading with this pack, the Swiss pack, I will do it as a real reading. I'll shuffle the cards and I'll put cards down onto the table and I'll read them. And then afterwards, we'll compare how that would have looked with the other pack. So, I shuffle the cards. I'm finding them a bit bendy. I want to bend them a bit. They're awfully new. I align myself a bit. Take a deep breath. Cut the cards. I'm going to deal 3 cards, 1, 2, 3, left to right. Okay, first impressions. I immediately find it difficult. I've got 2 major arcana cards, the Emperor and the Hanged Man. But the third card, the 5 of batons, I'm immediately thrown. I'm used to seeing these illustrated cards. All I can do in my position, having worked with the Rider Waite and the Aquarian for decades, is translate this card, the 5 of batons, into its equivalent in the Rider Waite, which is this one. This is a very simple, almost bog standard 3-card reading in which you say card number 1 is the past, number 2 is the present, number 3 is the future. It's one of the simplest grids you can possibly use. What do I see here? Well, I'm working backwards. This 5 of batons that caught my eye and that caused me a little bit of a translation problem is the card of struggle. It's the card of fighting. It's a card that tells you that the future is not going to be particularly easy, but it encourages you to fight. In the Alfred Douglas book, there is mention of fighting for a prize. This is a prize which you have to fight for relentlessly if you want to gain it. Fair enough. I think I have some fight in me. What is this Emperor doing in the past? Well, I think I'm quite pleased with myself in a way. I have done quite a lot of very serious reorganisation of my life. As a working artist, I have made changes to the structure of my life. I've moved to a different country. I now work with different people. And I'm fairly satisfied that I have a structure that I am happy with. I don't have my nice house in the Hollywood Hills, but we're working on it. The central card, the Hanged Man. Well, I noticed something about this Hanged Man, which is that it's a different representation of the Hanged Man. In Rider Waite and similar packs, the Hanged Man has a strangely blissful expression on his face. He's not particularly worried about being hanged. He's being hanged upside down by the foot. He actually has a halo in the classic Rider Waite. That's the Hanged Man I know and like, frankly. I was watching a tarot video on YouTube the other day, and the lady was saying that she was reviewing a deck like this, and she was looking at the Hanged Man and saying she liked it because it was a realistic Hanged Man. He definitely looked like he was going to die quite soon. For me, the Hanged Man is some kind of ritualistic hanging or inversion. Indeed, there are people who offer, well, hanging is not a very nice word, suspension as a therapeutic thing. I think my friend Torsten does suspensions, and you just You string someone up by the feet and you look after them and you check that they're okay. But this, apart from being quite healthy in small doses to get the blood to your head, it is said to be a personal development tool. When you're upside down, everything looks different. You look at the world in a different way. And in the tarot, as far as I understand it, the hanged man, when he appears, is advising us to let go of beliefs or systems or even things that we have, and allow our intuitive wisdom or even messages from outside of us to filter into our mind. The Hanged Man is a card of letting go, being prepared to turn everything upside down and be open to new possibilities. I won't go into the reading in any more detail than that. It all actually makes perfect sense to me. It resonates with how I actually feel. Of course, I was hoping that the third card would be one of those wonderful cards in the tarot which imply money just cascading in. I was hoping for the Ace of Coins, wasn't I, ladies and gentlemen? But I didn't get it. Instead, I got a card that told me to get ready for a fight. But what would this reading have looked like if we had used the Rider Waite? Well, it would have looked like this. I can see the attraction of the Marseilles style. There's a certain clarity, there's a certain abstraction. And if that is something that helps you to do your mind mapping, because this is what tarot is, then knock yourself out. For my money, it has to be an illustrated deck. I shall treasure my new Swiss tarot deck, and I will use it, I imagine, for the more meditational side of tarot. You can just enjoy the cards. You can even play tarocchi with the cards, I think, if you're in the mood. But I think the next pack of cards I buy will be a pictorial pack. So join me in 2 weeks' time. It'll be time for our monthly reading, and I'll be putting down some cards and seeing what August has in store. Stay well and drink plenty of kombucha. Robert Farrah's Tea and Tarot goes out once a fortnight on Sunday mornings. If this is the kind of thing you like, why not subscribe?